So white people use drugs just as much as black people? More race hustle rhetoric? Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So I have more race hustle rhetoric for y'all. And again, I have to keep bringing out these episodes of race hustle rhetoric. And the reason why is because, well, the people on the left keep using them as evidence of racism, that America's a racist country. You know, it's kind of like the gender pay gap. The gender pay gap has pretty much been debunked ever since its inception in the 70s. But the fact that it's been absolutely, completely and totally debunked, thoroughly debunked, every which way from Sunday, feminists still keep crying about the gender pay gap. It's like, seems like it would never end. This is why we have to keep destroying it. But anyway, one example that black people use as evidence of racism in America is that studies have supposedly shown that white people use drugs at pretty much the same rate as black people do, yet black folks are being arrested at a higher rate because of drug charges than white people are. And thus, with their end result thinking and their mindset, with the race Murphy's law that everything can be race will be race, they hype this and make race out of everything because they need to be victims. And they don't, like I said, they see just enough information to support their narrative. They don't do any deep, thorough dive into all the information, look at all the evidence, all the data, all the facts. They just get just enough information to support their narrative and they run with it. Now, is it true that black people are arrested at a higher rate of drug possession than white people? Absolutely. But here's the problem with that narrative. These supposedly studies, that is evidence that shows that white people use drugs at the same rate as black people, are in fact nothing but surveys. In other words, they will survey people who are, at drug treatment centers or something like that. They will survey them and ask them if they used drugs in the last 30 days, the last 60 days, or 90 days, or whatever the length of time. And then people will give their answer. And this is what they will use as fact. Now, the problem with that is anybody can say anything on a survey. So this is why I don't trust surveys, regardless if it's coming from leftists or if it's coming from people on the right. When I hear a survey, immediately, when they use a survey as evidence, immediately I'm thinking, okay, how accurate is this survey? Because like I said, people can say anything on any survey. We know this. Now, here's the reality though. Whenever those surveys were backed up by drug tests, which is factual and which is conclusive, the evidence have shown that black people were several times more likely to have lied about the use of drugs than white people were. Now, it varies based upon drugs. Certain drugs, black people were more likely to lie about. Other drugs, maybe crystal meth, something like that, a white person was more likely to lie, but by and large, black people were several times more likely to have lied. So if black people were several times more likely to have lied, when you take the surveys and you match them up with actual drug tests, then wouldn't these surveys, how can we look at these surveys as credible then? If the drug tests say that black people were more likely to have lied. So if black people were more likely to have lied on the surveys, then wouldn't it also possibly be that maybe white people aren't using drugs at the same rate in which black people are? And thus, the reason why black people are arrested at a disproportionate higher rate is actually legitimate and not racism? Again, if you look at take the evidence, the data, and the facts, and you're not brainwashed and have your brain clouded by race, and you can be honest and make an honest determination based upon what the evidence says, you have to say those surveys are debunked or fraud, and that black folks aren't disproportionately being arrested for drug possession and drug use, drug distribution. It's that black people are just doing it at a higher rate. Same thing with the crime rate. The reason why black folks are incarcerated at a higher rate than white folks are, because blacks commit crime at a higher rate than what white folks do. Anyway, y'all, that's my whole 2 cents on this issue. You know, if you ever hear anybody talks about white people do drugs at the same rate in which black people do, but black folks are arrested at a higher rate, disproportionate higher rate, well, now you know, and knowing it's at the battle. And as always, 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 until next time.